Meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals. This is kind of an unusual platform, so thanks everybody for all of your efforts, and thanks to the city for allowing this to happen and take place. So first up is roll call. Ms. Paulson is here. Mr. Culberson is here. Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Raschke is here. Mr. Hirsch is here. And Ms. Konishi is here. So with that, I will turn it over to Ramona.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals. This is a board consisting of members that are appointed by our City Commission to serve for a 3-year term. All the board members are volunteer members and not city employees. They are charged with hearing and deciding appeals for interpretations of variances to the city's land development regulations, and where literal enforcement of that code would result in an unnecessary or undue hardship, and then they can grant the variance if it's not contrary to public interest. Procedurally, the way the meeting will work today is be a little bit different because we're all appearing virtually, or we'll have applicants calling in. So what we'll be asking the applicants to do once you're called to present, I'll swear each applicant in individually. And then if there were any additional witnesses to speak for or against a particular variance and somebody's on the phone, then I'll swear that particular witness in. Each applicant, once called, if you could just state your full name, address, and provide a brief description of what you're requesting before the board. For the record, the board will have the opportunity to ask any questions, as well as then open up the discussion to anyone on the phones that may have specific questions or comments. What I would like to do at this time, however, is to go ahead and swear in our staff that will be speaking today before the board. We'll do that at one time, and I think it'll make things a little easier if our staff could raise their right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, great. And then we can go ahead back to Madam Chair, if you can go ahead and call the first case.
All right, first we have before us the meeting minutes from the March 3rd meeting before us. So are there any comments or questions regarding these minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you.
Second.
All right, the meeting minutes have been approved. So first item of business today is item number 6.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I believe we have to do a roll call vote.
Yes, you're right. I apologize.
Okay. So I just ask board members, when you're called upon, if you could unmute your mic to say yay or nay. Okay, go ahead, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Carlson.
Say that again?
Yes. Did you hear me?
Do you approve the meeting minutes?
Yes. Aye.
Mr. Culberson.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Raschke.
Mr. Raschke, you have to unmute your phone.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hirsch.
Yes.
Thank you, and Ms. Konishi, yes. So,
Madam Chair, before we continue with the first case, I think I neglected to mention one of the items for new business was the appointment of an interim chairperson. But after we had discussed that, my understanding is that you as vice chair will go ahead and serve as the chairperson for the next 2 meetings until we go forward. And then we will elect a chair and a vice chair at the end of our June meeting.
Okay. All right, so first up is item number 6. We have Arachlis Malice. If I misspelled your name, I apologize. Or mispronounced your name.
Hello,
Good morning.
morning.
Mr. Malice, I'm going to need to swear you in.
Mr.
Yes.
Malice, you can turn your webcam on if you have it. There you are. Thank you.
So, Mr. Malice, oh, Ramona, you're swearing him
Yeah,
in.
I need to swear him in. If you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give it is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Malice is requesting a 1,210-foot variance to allow a new pawn shop approximately 110 feet from the real property of another pawn shop in lieu of the 1320 minimum separation distance specified by Table 2.3-1 and Section 2.6 of the Land Development Code on the property located at 515 East Memorial Boulevard. Mr. Malice, can you give us a little bit more information about your request?
Yes. On February 8th, 2019, I went ahead to apply for a city license to open up a pawn shop, and the lady told me that I basically need to get the state license first. So I went ahead and got my state license, and I basically applied before the changes were made by the city. And now I basically have my state license, I have my county license, and I'm basically only missing my city license to basically open my new business.
Okay. All right. Do we have anything from the city or anyone from the audience who wishes to speak?
Good morning, members of the ZBA. For the record, this is Todd Vargo with the Community and Economic Development Department. I'm the case planner for this. Next slide, please, Christelle. So the subject property is located at the southwest corner of East Memorial Boulevard and North Vermont Avenue. It's improved with a 1-story commercial structure. Next slide, please. It is zone C2, highway commercial, and you can see from these slides that it used to house, the structure used to house a cash advance store and income tax service. This variance is probably unique to any that the ZBA has heard and probably will hear, and let me explain. So as the applicant stated, he contacted the city's business tax office back in February of 2019 to open up a pawn shop at the site. At the time, pawn shops were permitted uses in the C2 district. Armed with this information, the applicant began the application process for a pawnbroker license from the state of Florida. Unknown to the applicant, sometime in the summer, staff proposed an amendment to the Land Development Code to limit the number of uses such as pawn shops, rent-to-own stores, check cashing stores, and other similar uses to limit those in a certain area. We instituted a minimum separation distance of 1/4 mile, which is 1,320 feet between those similar uses. The amendment was approved by the City Commission on November 18th, 2019. Next slide, please. In January of this year, when the applicant came back to the business tax office with their approved state pawnbroker license, they were informed of this new ordinance that was passed, the new minimum distance between pawn shops. And as you can see in this slide, and hopefully it's clear, it was a very bright day when I took this. There's an existing value pawn store right across Memorial Boulevard, approximately 110 feet to the northeast. I'm standing in the subject property's parking lot and looking northeast across Memorial there. So the business tax office did not give them, they did not issue them a license for the pawn shop at that time because it didn't meet the minimum code. The applicant came to us in zoning, planning and zoning. We met with them, discussed these unusual circumstances that led to this issue. Next slide, please. Sorry, you can see there's the existing value pawn. There's the 110-foot separation, and on the bottom of the screen is the proposed pawn shop at 5150 East Memorial. Sorry, 515 East Memorial. So we met with the applicant, discussed these unusual circumstances, and decided that we could support a variance to the minimum distance because the applicant began the process to secure the pawnbroker's license based on the information they received back before that amendment was adopted back in February of 2019. And any questions you might have, hope to answer them.
Board members, if you have a question, please raise your hand in front of your webcam to be recognized. Okay.
Yes, I have a question. Did you hear from any of the property owners in regards to the letter that was sent out, particularly the owner across the street?
I have not received any communication from any property owners. But good question. So in summary, the applicant inquired about the pawn shop use in good faith prior to pursuing a pawnbroker's license with the state, unaware that we were about to propose changes to the land development code. We believe the amount of relief requested is the minimal amount necessary to allow for the establishment of the pawn shop use. And due to the unique and special circumstances, we recommend that the request be considered for approval.
Any other comments from the board? Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this?
We don't have any calls, Madam Chair.
I would make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So let's vote on this. Ms. Carlson?
Aye.
Mr. Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes,
Mr. Hirsch?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, yes. So it has been approved. So moving on to,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, you as well. Moving on to the next applicant. We have Jack Hall Jr.'s Construction and Aluminum Incorporating requesting 9.5-foot variance to allow a front yard setback of 5.5 feet in lieu of the 15-foot minimum setback specified by Table 3.4-1 of the Land Development Code in order to construct a carport in the front yard of an existing home on the property located at 1819 Petersburg Avenue. Who do we have with us this morning?
Hi,
Madam Chair, we have
Oh, sorry.
Daniel Johnson. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, Mr. Johnson. If you could raise your right hand.
Yep.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your request?
Yes, so I've got a customer, an elderly customer, and he would like a carport on the front of his house. And yeah, so I'm here for a variance to see if we can accommodate that for him, because I don't think there's any property in this area that has one on the front of the house. So this one's going to be a tougher one for me.
Okay.
But I think, let me look at my paperwork. Yeah, I think the house in question, most of these homes have carports built on the side, not on the front. We had tried to get him to reduce the size of it a bit to help this case along, but his truck's pretty big and he wanted the full 18-foot projection of his carport, which I believe would put us 15 feet from the front property line, because his property line sets in, or I'm sorry, the property line sets in 15 feet from the actual street, Petersburg Avenue. Any questions?
Do we have any comments from the city on this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Philip Scarce. I'm a principal planner with Community and Economic Development. So I just want to touch on what the applicant was stating as far as the setbacks that's proposed. The applicant is proposing a carport 16 feet out from the front of the house with a 2-foot overhang, which would put the structure, in a sense, 3.5 feet from the front property line. But we measure from the base of the structure, which is a 5 feet, 5.5 feet. So this is a variance of 9 feet. So I'll just run through some slides showing you the nature of the street, and there's a site plan of the proposed carport. Yes. Okay. So this slide is in your packet. As you can see, the structure is extending approximately 18 foot from the house. The property line is 21.5 feet from the house. So therefore, this carport it's encroaching into the front setback by 9.5 feet. And if we go to the next slide, please. You can see this is the house in question and the vehicles there. Next slide. Thank you. This is another shot of the street. Next slide. Yeah, and just looking down or up Petersburg Avenue, there are no front carports extending into the front yard there. Like Mr. Johnson said, they're all on the side of the street. So you can see some examples here of a carport that's integrated into the house and not sticking out. Early on in the process, we reached out to the applicants to see if they could scale down this request. We thought that 3.5 feet for the structure overall was a little bit too excessive. And we also asked if there were any medical conditions that may require this. May necessitate the need for this request, but the applicant doesn't have any other than, his age, which, not necessarily in and of itself, but there's no actual ADA disability in this case. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. Crystal, you can go back to the site plan. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we've, in our staff report, we've noted that the board has heard many variances in the past regarding front carports. Most of them were after the fact that the applicant has come in and seek variances after the carport has been constructed, excuse me. This is not the case. The applicant was going the right way here, but most of the variances that we've done over the last few years have been denied by the board. And they were all denied due to the lack of a clear hardship, which staff finds in this case is really no clear hardship. And with these facts, approval of this request would set a precedent and open the door to similar variance requests, possibly in this neighborhood and on this street. Therefore, staff doesn't recommend approval of this request as proposed. We do recommend denial.
Mr. Searcy?
Yes.
This is Mr. Hirsch. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there an existing carport to this house on Petersburg now, and he wants to add another one out? Or why doesn't he just build it on the side if there's no existing carport?
There's no carport on the house now. There is kind of a makeshift carport on the side of the house, which I didn't get a picture of. I'm not sure if it's a code case, but it's a detached kind of makeshift carport on the side of the house.
Yes,
but they have the option to do it in the rear yard. On the sides, there's just not enough room to meet the setback requirements of 5 feet from the side yard if it was attached.
So if you took down the part to the left there that's away from the house, he could build a carport on the side then, couldn't he?
It's possible. I'm not sure he's going to have enough room on that side yard.
I see. Okay.
Madam Chair, Matt Lyons has his hand raised.
Yes, Christophe, could you go back to the previous slide showing the overall site plan? Before that. Next slide. I think it was after the other side. I'm sorry. Are we missing it? The overall site plan? I thought we had it in here.
Sorry, man. It's in the packet. I didn't have it in the slideshow because it didn't show it only showed the property lines. It didn't show the.
And basically, if you look at the sketch from the property appraiser, if you notice in front of the truck, there's an area that's enclosed in. There's an awning and a couple windows. The property appraiser identifies that as a finished enclosed porch, 18 feet wide. That likely was the original carport when the house was built, and a previous owner enclosed that, converted that to a living area. So one time it appears there was a carport, but it was enclosed in there. And there may be room on the side for a smaller carport, but we do not recommend, for the reasons that Mr. Stairs presented, that we grant variance in the front to just the precedent that it would establish.
This is Kristen. And looking at the photo that's up right now and the extension of where the carport would be, it would look like the individual would still be walking outside to go to the front door. Did I miss something, or is that all going to be covered?
No, ma'am, you're correct. There's a little door on the side there. You can't really see it in that little alcove under the patio, so they won't have to walk quite as far. But yeah, you may have to go outside.
So they'd be stepping over the flower bed to get in that side door, though.
Yes, ma'am.
So to me, it sounds like it's more a cover for the truck than the individual that's trying to make their way to and from the front door.
And in that slide, you can see there's a little white canopy on the right-hand side of the screen. They have a little makeshift carport on that side yard.
Okay, board members, just reminding, please raise your hand to be recognized by Ms. Kanishi. as the chairperson?
Jonathan, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All I see is the picture that you're putting up, so how would you know if my hand was raised if we're not back to the picture of the board members?
Yes, sir. I can see you. We can see you on your webcam.
You can see me and I can't see you all?
Yes,
Oh, okay, sorry.
no problem. Madam Chair?
Well, and when, Mr. Johnson, when you were working with the applicant, he was unwilling to go with a shorter carport or make arrangements to move it on the side or anything. It was just, this is all he wanted.
Mr. Johnson, please unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I was just replying to the question. No, when approached by the planner to ask if he would be willing to decrease the size, he did not want to. So move forward as you see fit, guys.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other questions from the board, or do we have any objections from the public?
I received no comments from any neighboring property owners.
And Madam Chair, there's no calls currently from the public. I'd like to remind the public on the broadcast that for any of these items, if you wish to speak, you can dial in using the number that is the graphic on the screen with the access code. And please just hold until you are recognized. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, board, do you have any more comments?
Madam Chair, Mr. Culberson has his hand raised.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes, I'll make a motion to deny the proposal.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Carlson, do you agree?
Can you say that again, Ms. Carlson? Couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would agree to deny. I didn't hear it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke? Mr. Rashke, do you agree to deny this?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hirsch?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, I also agree. So unfortunately, this has not been approved. So thank you very much. So moving on to the next applicant. We have, is this Michael DeMarque?
Yes, Michael DeMarce.
DeMarce, I apologize. Mr. DeMarce?
We swear in first.
Ramona, you're muted.
Morning, Mr. DeMarque. If you could raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. This next request is for a 45-foot variance to allow a maximum setback of 75 feet from Lakeland Hills Boulevard in lieu of the 30-foot maximum setback specified by Table 3.4-2 of the Land Development Code for development located within an urban corridor context sub-district in order to construct a new multi-tenant retail development on property located at 4175 Lakeland Hills Boulevard. Can you, Mr. DeMarce, can you please give us a little bit more background and some information on your application?
Sure. Good morning to everyone, and thank you to members of the board and staff for holding this hearing. We own this vacant parcel of land along Lakeland Hills Boulevard, just north of the Lakeland Regional Cancer Center. And we're looking to develop a new commercial retail strip center. It's the third parcel of a master plan development that began back in 2009 We developed the Arbor Oaks Assisted Living Facility and the Arbor Hills Independent Living Facility next door, and we still own and operate those communities. I have my civil engineer, Matthew Campo on the phone as well. And I'd like to turn it over to him to discuss the site in more detail. Matt?
Yes, I'm here. I guess I need to be sworn first.
Yes, Ramona, just unmute your mic.
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just have a quick question for staff. So in the application process, we submitted some justification, but more importantly, it had some graphics in it. Just wanted to confirm if the board members were able to receive those, because I think those would be helpful if they did. Or if there's ability to put it on the screen. If not, then I can just talk through it.
Christelle, could you please go to the site plan and the slideshow, please?
Actually, that's probably good right there, that aerial for right now, if we could leave it on that.
Okay.
Great, thanks. As Michael was mentioning, this particular property, the portion of this property is the northernmost portion. This particular property, back in 2009, when they purchased this land, was zoned commercial, or had for commercial, Euclidean commercial, I should say. And as a city rezoning initiative, this area was rezoned, I believe, to a form-based zoning that changed the criteria, and it changed the setbacks to where it's a 30-foot maximum. Michael and his group actually at that time, they don't have any record of receiving a letter. So we found out about it when we had done, took the site plan for the commercial parcel referenced, went and met with staff through a concept plan review, and that's when it came up. So we were surprised by that. Had further meetings with staff, which led to this variance request. The particular parcel is butts the interstate, the IAC, so the Interstate Activity Center. Immediately across the street, to the east or to the left of this image, is a Harley Davidson shop, and then north of that is a put up my little arrow here. North of that is additional activities such as a Waffle House. Immediately north of the parcel is a Marathon gas station and car dealerships and uses like that. So the actual activity centers activities are literally directly across the street. So this parcel, as it's zoned, is set up to be more urban. It has the intent of having the buildings on the street corners, sidewalks in the front, with the concept that people are going to be walking by and walking in the front door. And so with the nature of the parcel, and I believe staff does support what we're requesting, that it really doesn't fit that type of atmosphere. So the intent here is to request what we've done, which is a 75-foot setback over the 30, and have a little bit more of a traditional layout where we have parking in front and the buildings further back. Within our justification that we provided, there's a variety of other aspects, which is this site has a handful of wetlands on it that make the geometry very unique. And also in efforts to save trees by putting the buildings further back, it gives us more flexibility to work around those trees. So without getting into the justification portion, that's a summary of what we're proposing.
Okay, comments from the city?
Yes, good morning, Joshua Cheney with Community Economic Development. As you can see here, we have a 5.32 acre sized property. Again, it is vacant except for a cell tower that is a 160-foot cell tower that was approved several years ago. The subject property is located directly adjacent to the intersection of North Florida Avenue and Lakeland Hills Boulevard. This is an arterial corridor that connects the downtown area to Slocum Loop Road North and State Road 33 there, further to the north, as well as I-4. While this segment of the corridor is technically within the urban corridor context district, it functions more like a suburban corridor. as it contains an assortment of, as the applicant mentioned, auto dealerships. There's an assisted living facility directly to the south. There's restaurants, a convenience store directly to the north. There's a large mobile home park. And then further to the north, you have low density, single family and multifamily residential. Christelle, could you go to one of the maps? There should be a context district map. There you go. Thank you. So again, as you can see directly to the north there, it is suburban corridor. This would have been, these urban form context districts would have been included with the adoption of the new land development code in December of 2013. Again, this variance is needed in order to accommodate them as it relates to the design for the site. It is a 75-foot setback that they require for the proposed retail strip center. We have not received any emails or phone calls regarding this request, and staff recommends approval. We don't believe that the relief requested is an issue. It's the minimum necessary to accommodate them. And again, with that, we recommend approval, and we'll stay for any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Do we have there been any calls this morning for comments on this property?
I don't see any, Madam Chair. Matt Lyons did have his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Yes, I also just wanted to add that the property does have a future land use designation of IAC Interchange Activity Center. It's a special land use category that was created to address the unique opportunities and conditions associated with development at limited access highway interchanges. Generally, the uses of those interchanges are motor vehicle oriented, designed to cater to regional travelers, things such as gas stations, convenience stores, lodging and dining establishments. So the land use does support the justification for the variance. It's not really your more urban type land use, and we have just had a mismatch when the mapping was done throughout the context there, and likely suburban corridor would be more appropriate. So we are supporting the variance as submitted because of that.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Do we have any comments or questions from the board?
Madam Chair, Ms. Carlson, raise your hand.
I move approval. I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and vote. Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, yes. So it is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.
So next up, we have item number 9. This is for, the request is by the applicant is Brenda S. Corbin. This is a request for a 9.5-foot variance to allow a rear yard setback of 5.5 feet in lieu of a 15-foot minimum setback specified by the PUD zoning for Sandpiper Golf and Country Club, ordinance number 3563 as amended, and a 3.3% variance to allow a maximum lot coverage of 38.3% in lieu of the 35% maximum specified by the table 3.4-5 of the Land Development Code to allow for the construction of a new hard roof screen room addition on property located at 5878 McCaw Place. Is Ms. Corbin here?
Yes, Madam Chair, she is here. Let me go ahead and unmute her.
Good morning, Ms. Corbin. If I could go ahead and swear you in.
Okay.
Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please go ahead and give us a brief overview of what your application is for?
Sure. Okay, here on our property, we purchased this house a year ago in April, so we've been here a little over a year. We have a patio on the rear of our house, a concrete slab, which is nice area. The problem is that the sun is on the patio pretty much the whole day. And in Florida, as you know, the sun's very hot. And at night, or even during the day, the bugs also are a problem. So with these two things, we unfortunately don't get to use the patio, but we would like an area so we could still, you know, enjoy the outdoors. Since we moved to Florida from Ohio, we like the outdoors and would like to spend more time. It's just that we don't get the opportunity because of the problems. Like I said, there is a patio there already, and we would just be putting a screen room with a hard insulated roof over that area. Can you still hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Do we have the city, comments from the city?
Hi, good morning again. For the record, Joshua Cheney with Community Economic Development. The applicant's lot is a 7,840 square foot corner lot. There's an existing 2,762 square foot single family home that was built in 1993. The purpose of this request is to obtain relief for a proposed sunroom or hard roof screen room. As the applicant stated, there is an issue with regards to the setback in the rear yard. This is a common issue, as many of you are aware, within Sandpiper. Unfortunately, the lots in the subdivision are rather shallow in terms of their depth, and it's not uncommon for a variance to be required prior to getting approval for that building permit that they need to construct this. At this time, if you, Crystal, if you could please go to the site plan. Thank you. The house is approximately 14.8 feet from the rear property line. If this were to be approved, when the sunroom is constructed, it would be 5.5 feet from the rear property line. The applicant has received approval already from the Sandpiper Golf and Country Club's Architectural Review Committee. A copy of that was uploaded to the file. This hardship suffered is not the result of any action taken by the applicant. The owners wish to have a place, as she mentioned earlier, to be in the shade and free from bugs, which can be accomplished with this hard roof screen room. As such, the requested relief is reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship suffered by the applicant. The amount of relief requested is minimal amount necessary to accommodate them. There aren't really any other alternatives. So we do recommend approval of this, and I will add that we have not received any emails or phone calls regarding this request. And with that, I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And Jonathan, we can confirm there's nobody that's called in for this?
No, there are no callers currently.
All right. Are there any questions from the board?
I see Mr. Culberson's hand raised, Madam Chair.
Culberson?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is not dissimilar to previous requests we've examined in prior meetings. So I would make a motion to approve.
A second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote for this. Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Culberson,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Rashke,
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch,
Yes.
and Ms. Konishi, yes. So this has been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on. This is item number 10, 4311 Ship Court. This is a request for 11-foot variance to allow a rear yard setback of 4 feet in lieu of the 15-foot minimum setback specified by Table 3.4-11 of the Land Development Code in order to construct a new screen room with a hard roof on property located at 4311 Ship Court.
And Mr. Johnson's already been sworn in, so he doesn't need to be sworn in again. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
This variance is to allow for a screen room in the rear of her property. There are a lot of these attached townhomes, I believe they are, that have screen rooms surrounding her. In fact, there's one directly behind her. I don't know that they were permitted, but we're going to permit it. So it's a small screen room, a small existing slab, as I'm sure they'll show you in the slide. I can't remember the exact size of the room, but it's like 14 by 6, I think. And the slide you see here, directly across from that patio door, the slider door, there's a room exactly like what she wants to build there. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm assuming we don't have any people calling in from the audience on this one?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, comments from the city?
Excuse me. Good morning again, Philip Scarce with Community Economic Development. We'll just continue with the slides. Again, this is it's a townhouse development, the Village of Lake Highlands subdivision. It's a 55 by 71 foot deep lot, single family attached. Here's the site plan. This is a corner lot, so there's a little bit more lot here. But as you can see, the 6 by 14 concrete patio that's already existing is approximately 4 feet from the property line. And there are other patios in this development as well, just along the rear there. Christophe, you can go back a couple slides. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there are other, in this slide, just exactly right here. You can tell that there are other rear patios in this development, especially right across from to the rear of the applicant. The zoning is MF12, which requires a 15-foot rear yard setback. So they're requesting a variance from Table 3.411 from the single family attached standards. Excuse me here. So it's an 11-foot variance for a 15 to allow a 4-foot rear yard setback. We've recently had a variance at 4309. Excuse me, we recently had a variance on the other side of this on a previous cul-de-sac, which was approved on a corner lot, same situation here. Staff does recommend approval. The degree of hardship suffered by the applicant is minimal and necessary to accommodate the proposed screening enclosure. Due to lack of any viable alternatives, staff find this variance will not be injurious to adjacent property owners or contrary to public interests, and we recommend approval.
Thank you. Yes, I remember we just did approve one just like this. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I move that we approve the construction.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much. We'll put this to a vote. Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Mr. Culverson,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Rashke,
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch,
Yes.
and Ms. Konishi, yes. So thank you. This one is also approved.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, you as well.